"We're not your nannies, Maeve." My mother said it after I asked for 3 hours with my sick 4-year-old son so I could make the final interview of my career. 3 hours, that was all. I had paid off her $240,000 mortgage, bought my parents a car, and still sent them money every month. So why was I asking too much? I looked at my coffee then, at the interview email glowing on my laptop. "You're right," I said, smiling, "and I'm not your bank." She went silent. But what she said next told me she had been hiding something far bigger than I imagined. The next morning, Boston looked washed and gray. Rain tapped softly against the kitchen windows, and the heater clicked on with that dry metallic hum old houses make before sunrise. Noah was curled beneath a navy blanket on the couch, one cheek flushed, his stuffed dinosaur tucked under his chin. Ethan stood at the counter spreading peanut butter on toast while I refreshed my email for the 3rd time. There it was. Final interview, Tuesday, 10 in the morning. For a second, I just stared. I was 40 years old, 15 years into a career in corporate restructuring, and this was the kind of opportunity people quietly built their lives around. I had spent years walking into failing companies, sorting through bad decisions and telling powerful people what they did not want to hear. At work, I was good at boundaries. With my family, I was terrible at them. Ethan slid a mug toward me. "You should be excited." "I am." He looked at Noah, then back at me. That was the problem. Noah had been home from preschool for 2 days with a fever. Ethan had already moved meetings and missed deadlines to stay with him. Tuesday was mine to solve, and in my family I had always been the one who solved things. Growing up, my younger sister Sienna was the sensitive one. She forgot assignments, quit jobs, changed plans, and somehow every crisis became a family project. I was the opposite. I worked after school, bought my first used car myself, earned scholarships, and learned early that being low maintenance made everyone's life easier. Whenever I struggled, my mother Diane would smile and say, "You'll figure it out. You always do." I used to hear pride in that. Now I am not sure there ever was. 5 years earlier, my parents were drowning financially. Bad spending, weak planning, and years of helping Sienna had left them close to losing their house. I stepped in. I used savings and a major bonus to pay off roughly $240,000 of their remaining mortgage. Later, I bought them a car worth about $45,000. Even after retirement income and Social Security, I still sent around $3,000 a month to make their lives easier. Restaurants, home repairs, groceries, little comforts. I never called it sacrifice. I called it family. After everything I had carried for them, part of me felt embarrassed rehearsing the request. Family was supposed to be the one place where you did not need a spreadsheet, a backup plan, or permission to need somebody. So when I looked at Noah sleeping beneath that blanket, I did not think I was asking for much. 3 hours, one Tuesday morning. I picked up my phone and called my mother. I still believed she would say yes. My mother answered on the second ring. "Maeve, is Noah worse?" For half a second, the concern in her voice softened me. "No. His fever is coming down. I actually called because I got the final interview." There was a pause. "Oh, that's good. Good." 15 years of work, and it landed between us, like I had told her the dry cleaning was ready. I swallowed. "It's Tuesday morning. Ethan has already rearranged 2 days this week, and I only need help for about 3 hours. Noah will probably sleep most of the time." I heard dishes clink on her end. "Tuesday. Yes." Another pause. "Your father has golf." I waited. "And I'm meeting the ladies for lunch." My fingers tightened around the phone. "Mom, it's 3 hours." She sighed. Not tired, annoyed. That sound did something to me. "I know, Maeve, but we have lives too. I'm not asking you to cancel a vacation. You make enough money to hire somebody." I looked through the doorway at Noah. His small hand was curled around the edge of the blanket. "I can hire somebody. I'm asking my parents." Her voice sharpened. "And we're not your nannies." Everything inside me went quiet. No argument, no tears, just quiet. I stared at the coffee beside my laptop. A thin skin had formed over the top. For years, whenever they needed something, I had moved. A repair, a bill, the mortgage, the car. I had never made them explain why they needed help badly enough to deserve it. I just helped. Now I needed 3 hours, and somehow that was too much. My mother kept talking. "Honestly, Maeve, this is what happens when both parents work demanding jobs. You and Ethan need a better backup plan." There it was, a lesson, from the woman whose backup plan had been me for years. Something cold settled behind my ribs. Not rage, clarity. "You're right," I said. She stopped. What I smiled. I could actually feel it happen. Small, calm, almost peaceful. You're right. You're not my nanny. Her tone relaxed immediately. Well, exactly. I knew you'd understand. And I'm not your bank. Silence. A real silence this time. Then a nervous laugh. What is that supposed to mean? It means I'm going to review the money I'm still putting into your household every month. Her breathing changed. Maeve, don't be ridiculous. I'm not being ridiculous. Your father and I depend on that. I closed my eyes. Not I'm sorry. Not I didn't mean it. Not even how can we help the money. That was her first fear. Then maybe it's time we all looked at what we're actually responsible for. Her voice dropped. Maeve, wait. But I ended the call. My phone rang again before I had even set it on the desk. Then again. Then my father's name appeared. And that was when I realized something I should have noticed years ago. They were not panicking because they had hurt me. They were panicking because they thought the bank might finally close. And suddenly Tuesday's interview was no longer my biggest problem anymore. By noon I had 7 missed calls. 3 from Mom, 2 from Dad, 2 more from a number I recognized as Sienna's. I did not answer any of them. Instead, I called a professional caregiver service and explained the situation. By Monday afternoon, they had matched us with a woman named Mrs. Carter, a retired pediatric nurse with silver hair, warm eyes, and the calmest voice I had heard all week. When she arrived Tuesday morning, Noah studied her for 30 seconds before dragging his toy fire truck across the rug and asking if she knew how sirens worked. She smiled. I think you're going to have to teach me. For the first time since my mother's call, I laughed. Then I went to my interview. The conference room was all glass walls, cold air, and polished wood. 6 senior people sat across from me asking questions about failed negotiations, difficult clients, and what I did when someone refused reasonable terms. Normally, I would have answered from experience. That morning, I answered from somewhere deeper. I stop arguing, I said. I clarify the boundary separate emotion from obligation and let people own the consequences of their choices. One woman near the end of the table tilted her head. And if they panic, panic doesn't change the facts. I heard my mother's voice in my head. Maeve, wait. I kept going. By the time I walked out, the knot in my chest had loosened. I had solved the childcare problem. I had shown up. And nobody in that room knew I had nearly missed the opportunity because my own mother thought 3 hours was too much to ask. That afternoon, I met with a lawyer I trusted at a quiet cafe near downtown. I told him everything. Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed to know where generosity ended and obligation began. We went through the payments, the bills, and the support I had been covering. The house belonged to my parents. The car belonged to my parents. Those were gifts. Finished. I had no interest in touching either one. But the $3,000 I transferred each month voluntary. Mine to continue, mine to stop. He looked at me carefully. Before you change anything, make sure you understand where the money is actually going. So I did. That night, after Noah was asleep, I opened the payment history. Groceries, utilities, home repairs. Then I saw a recurring transfer, about $1,500 every month, same recipient, Sienna. I scrolled backward. 1 month, 6 months, a year, 2 years. My hands went cold. Roughly $36,000. Half of what I had been sending my parents had been quietly rerouted to support my 35-year-old sister. The next morning, I called Mom. Have you ever used the money I send you to help Sienna? A pause. Then she said, maybe once or twice. I was staring at 2 years of payments. And in that moment, the babysitting insult became almost irrelevant, because now I knew the truth. My mother had not just taken me for granted. She had been lying to my face. And if she could lie that easily about Sienna. I had one more question. How much of my parents' comfortable retirement had ever really been theirs? I saved the records, closed my laptop, and made a decision. The next transfer would not arrive. The transfer was scheduled for Friday. At 8:12 that morning, my mother called. I let it ring. At 8:19, she called again, then Dad, then Mom again. By 9, the messages started. Maeve, something is wrong with the account. Maeve, call me. Not one message asked how Noah was feeling. At 9:37, I finally replied, nothing is wrong. I stopped the monthly support. We can talk Sunday. Her answer came instantly. You cannot just do that. I stared at those 5 words. Then I typed back, I can stop giving away my own money. On Sunday, Mom and Dad arrived early. Ethan sat beside me in the living room, not to fight for me, just to remind me I was not imagining any of this. Mom sat down first. This has gone far enough. On the coffee table were the payments, bills, and totals I had reviewed with my lawyer. "No," I said. "It has gone on long enough." Dad rubbed his palms over his knees. "Maeve, we know you are hurt. Do you?" Mom's mouth tightened. "We could have handled Tuesday better. You never said that." She looked away. I picked up one page. "Did you use the money I sent you to pay Sienna's rent?" Mom crossed her arms. "We helped her sometimes." How often she was struggling, that wasn't my question. Dad whispered Diane. Mom snapped, "She is our daughter. So am I." The room went still. I placed the payment summary between us. About $1,500 every month, for roughly 2 years. Dad stared at it. Mom said nothing. "About $36,000, I continued. "Money I thought was helping you with groceries, utilities, repairs, and retirement expenses." "She needed us," Mom said. My throat tightened. "For 2 years you found $36,000 for a 35-year-old woman. Last week you could not find 3 hours for me." Mom's face changed. Not anger, shame. For years I had mistaken being useful for being loved. Sitting there watching both of them avoid my eyes, I finally understood the difference. Love asks what you need. Entitlement asks what else you can provide for them. I am not taking your house. I am not taking your car. I am not touching anything I already gave you. But the automatic $3,000 monthly support is over. If there is a real emergency, tell me. I will decide what I want to help with. Dad looked at me. "What about Sienna?" I knew what was coming. "Could you give her 1 more month?" Something inside me became clear. No. Dad blinked. "Maeve, no." The doorbell rang. Mom went pale. A second later, Sienna pushed through the doorway. She was breathing hard. "What did you do?" I stood. "Sienna, this is not your meeting. My rent is due next week. That sounds like something you need to handle." She looked at Mom. "You said she would calm down. You said she would never actually cut it off." Nobody moved. I looked at my mother. There it was. They had not hoped I would keep helping. They had counted on it. Sienna turned back to me. "This is all because Mom would not babysit one sick kid, no." That was just the moment I finally heard all of you clearly. She laughed. "You think you are better than us. No. I think I am responsible for my household, and you are responsible for yours." Mom started crying. Dad stared at the floor. Sienna opened her mouth again. I raised one hand. "The money stops here. 4 words. No threat, no punishment, no negotiation. Just a boundary that should have existed years ago." I opened the front door. Sienna left first. Mom followed, wiping her face. Dad paused beside me. "I hope you know what you are doing." I looked toward the hallway where Noah's toy trucks were lined against the wall. For the first time in my life, I did. When the door closed, my hands started shaking, but I did not feel guilty. That was how I knew something had finally changed. For the first week after that Sunday, the silence felt unnatural. My mother had spent years calling me about everything: a leaking faucet, a strange noise in the car, a restaurant reservation she wanted me to make. Then suddenly nothing. No missed calls, no messages, no requests. At first I kept checking my phone anyway. That habit took longer to break than I expected. 2 days later I got the call about the partnership. I was standing in the kitchen while Noah colored a blue dinosaur at the table. "We'd like you to join us as a partner," the voice said. I closed my eyes. For 15 years I had imagined that moment with champagne applause, maybe some dramatic speech. Instead, I looked at my son at the crayon marks on his fingers and felt something quieter: relief. I had not rescheduled my life. I had shown up for it. Ethan came home with takeout and a grocery store cake that said "Congrats" in red frosting. Noah ate more icing than cake. We laughed until he got hiccups. It was perfect. My parents' lives changed too, not dramatically, realistically. They still had their house. They still had the car I had given them. They still had retirement income and Social Security. But without the extra $3,000 a month, they had to make choices. Dad played less golf. Mom stopped ordering dinner out 3 nights a week. The patio furniture she had been talking about never appeared. For the first time, their comfort matched their income. Sienna had the hardest adjustment. Without $1,500 toward rent, she picked up more styling work and took a job at a home decor store. A few months later, I heard she had moved into a smaller apartment with a roommate. Nobody rescued her, and somehow she survived. That mattered to me. I had spent years believing that saying no would destroy people. It did not. Sometimes it simply forced them to stand up. 6 weeks after the confrontation, a letter arrived from Dad, handwritten, 1 page. I almost threw it away. Then I saw the first line. Maeve, I am not writing to ask you for anything. So I kept reading. He admitted he had been a coward. He said he had let Mom protect Sienna because it was easier than challenging her, and he had let me carry the financial weight because I always seemed capable of carrying more. Then one sentence stopped me. I mistook your strength for an absence of need. I read it 3 times. That was the apology I had wanted my whole life without knowing how to ask for it. I did not call him. I was not ready, but I kept the letter. 6 months later, Ethan, Noah, and I were at the park on a Sunday afternoon when my phone buzzed. Dad had sent a picture of Mom beside a rose garden. She looked older, thinner, but peaceful. His message was simple. How is Noah? I sent back a picture of him laughing on the swings. Dad replied, we miss him. I stared at those words. No money, no bills, no favors, just him. I looked at Ethan. Maybe someday, I said, we meet them halfway. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of something that did not need my money to survive. I used to think loving my family meant being available, always fixing problems, always paying the difference. I was wrong. Love without boundaries turns into expectation. Expectation turns into entitlement, and entitlement can make people forget there is a human being on the other side of a favor. I did not destroy my family. I stopped destroying myself to keep everyone else comfortable. If you have ever been the one everyone calls when things fall apart, tell me in the comments. And subscribe, because sometimes the hardest word you can say to family is the one that saves you. No.